with the gaming PCs, they're kind of hard, right? So it's like I'm entering like a more confusing world. Like lifting is already confusing, and like a lot of things are confusing, and like some like this PC is like 5 years old, I think 6 years old. So
Okay.
but it's like hard because like, do I edit some things? Do I edit like, do I have to edit? You know what I'm saying? Like it's just very hard. And like I have like a nice monitor, but like I don't know. So if anyone's into customizing like PCs and stuff, please like let me know. But yeah.
Are
So
you
yeah.
looking to are you looking to customize it for like gaming purposes, or are you going to use it for work, or both?
No, I'm so gaming one of them, and then honestly, I want to. So the whole idea was like with the podcast and like me creating what's Gainz Nation also too. Like we do this for free right now, and hopefully we can maybe make some money in the future. But obviously, we've been doing it because we like obviously bringing information, bringing topics, helping people, all that good stuff. Um,
We
so
actually
I what's up?
This is actually a cost to us, Gainz Nation. We
Yeah.
pay for storage every month. We
Yeah,
haven't put a
so
dime yet.
yeah, so we definitely don't make money on this. If anything, we're more in debt from this than we are positive. People are like, "No, yeah, right." But so the whole idea was eventually like because gaming PCs are expensive, and I'm in a good situation where I was able to get this for free. My brother-in-law was really nice enough, and eventually the whole game plan was like, hey, like maybe I'd build a PC eventually because I do want to edit more and like create more content. So like, I just know like customized PCs. Like we've been pretty much editing the Gainz podcast on a MacBook Air, which is I think like 7 or 8 years old. So, and I know Roman's equipment's a lot older than mine when it comes to like his iPad. Maybe the iPad might be newer than the MacBook, but I know like iPads are very hard to edit things on and upload because they don't have like the necessary like computing parts as like a laptop or a desktop. So eventually I was going to do that stuff. Like I have a nice, the 4K camera, thankfully I got for free. And then like my brother-in-law bought me like that microphone, which I haven't been using in a while, Gainz Nation, but you guys seen them in like earlier Gainz podcasts. But I've always wanted to have that because I do want to edit more. I want to create more content. I just haven't, just didn't. I don't know. I'm cheap and Roman's cheap, so it's very hard to justify it. But I think because I've gotten started, I'll probably update the memory, which is like pretty cheap. It's like $80, and I can upgrade it to like I think it's 8 gigs of RAM right now, and I could upgrade it to like 16 gigs of RAM with like for like $80. So that's pretty cheap. And then one of our friends, Roman's friend as well, he has like a case for me that he could give me, and I think a graphics card. So I'm gonna
Oh,
check.
sweet.
Yeah, so I'm gonna check if the graphics card is better than this one I have in here, and then I'm gonna probably just. I think it's a bigger case, so like it's easier to install parts and like add parts or like remove them
You
with like
can
case. So
you can get 8 gigs of RAM for much cheaper than $80. We should talk off air about that.
no, I'm so it's at 8 gigs right now, but I'm saying or no, maybe so it's I think it's like two 4 gig sticks. So I want
Okay,
to
okay,
upgrade it to like 16 gigs RAM. So I'm probably gonna put two 8 gig sticks in there.
okay,
But
okay.
like and then like I think it's like a regular standard hard drive, and I'm probably gonna swap it for like a solid state hard drive.
Okay.
Um, but it's like a interesting world. Like I said, it's like on top of the stuff you try to learn every day with like life in general, and then you throw like something like this and like you don't realize how much stuff you don't know. Like Roman and I know probably quite a bit about like parts like this. It's just you they're like, oh, if you upgrade this, you want to upgrade the compute, like the processor, because you wouldn't want like a beefy graphics card with like a computing processor that's like
Yeah.
not as good. So
Intel
it's
Celeron.
yeah, yeah. So and then people were like, "Oh, AMD, Intel, what which is better? Like you should get this." And but yeah, but either way, Gainz Nation. So hopefully this video makes it out to YouTube, Spotify, and all that because this is recorded on there. So we may or not people might not even listen to this, Roman. No, but you know what though? You know what? Actually, I lied. Skype. So we use Skype as like a video call conference saving. So when I did log into the PC, our podcast was there from last week. So I think they save it on their cloud. So
Yeah.
actually, this podcast will be out no matter what. Because if I can't figure it out, I'm gonna go back to the MacBook and then maybe do some more research or whatnot. So.
Nice.
But yeah, Roman, how's everything with you, man? I know we talking non-gain stuff, but
No, good. One more point. Do you have imaging software if you like end up changing the hard drive?
I think there's an image on here, so I should be able to just do a backup and then just like restore from backup type deal. Also too, like I have like 2 external hard drives too, so if I need to put it on something, I guess the image. I don't know. See, like that, like I don't know. I just know it shouldn't be that big of a deal, but yeah.
You got this, buddy. You gotta figure it out. You're Mr. IT.
Hey, I'm wearing my marathon shirt.
Oh, it's really cute. I like that. I like that a lot, actually.
It was like a 90s style.
Yeah.
I guess a 90s style shirt. So it's got like a 90s color.
You didn't wear that during the marathon, right? You would have been sweating bullets.
No. It is lightweight though. It's like it's very lightweight. But no, honestly, I think this is like more of a polyester. But no, I wore a cotton like t-shirt. Yeah, I don't know. I tried wearing polyester during the training and I didn't like it as much. I felt like it was lighter and cooler, but once I got really sweaty, it like did not dry up, if that makes sense. Like the cotton, I don't know. Maybe the cotton I was using was like lightweight cotton, but I don't know. People have their comfortability, man. It's like also too, not to be like too much information, but like I can't wear like compression underwear, compression shorts for a long time. I think that's very uncomfortable. And a lot of my friends like wear compression shorts as like boxers, and I don't know how people do it.
It makes me think of the Seinfeld episode with the brief.
Yeah. When they and then at the end, Kramer goes, because he's like trying to give his underwear away. He goes, so elated, Jerry, like, so what are you wearing? He goes, I'm free, Jerry, free. And he goes, oh no.
Can you imagine if like a kid watched that and then they take a test and it's like name some forms of contraception and they're like briefs. Because wasn't Kramer's whole thing that it would be like it killed your sperm or something like that?
Yeah. So I think I don't know. I not to like get into it really, but I'm pretty sure there is some science behind that. So like the tighter the underwear and whatnot.
I thought it was temperature. I thought it was like
the so it heats. Yeah, so it'll heat it up too much, and that's what you don't want.
Sperm cells are like temperature sensitive. Yeah, interesting.
Yeah, look at us. I mean, we could talk about anything on this podcast. We're pretty knowledgeable people. But no. So how's lifting and everything going? How's your week been when it comes to lifting?
Pretty good so far. So I'm running the 100 push-ups a day challenge still.
How's your chest and your triceps and shoulders been feeling?
They've been totally fine, to be honest with you, because it's just like 100 push-ups. It's not a lot. And I really have I don't do much other chest work other than that, to be honest with you. So it's just like push-ups for my chest work. And I wouldn't say my chest is the most full it's ever looked, like popping, but I think it's the most even it's ever looked, if that makes sense. Maybe the most aesthetic it's ever looked. I think that's a combination of leanness. I'm not crazy lean or anything like that, and I don't want to get crazy lean. I probably have only dropped a couple of pounds during this mini cut because I cheated a lot and I just kind of created some guardrails to bounce off of. Which I think it was effective because I definitely did lean out in certain areas. So I'm pretty happy about that. But so run the push-ups. Recovery's fine with that. Even with the pull-ups, sometimes I'll have like a cranky like elbow joint. But I just kind of like work on like mobility type stuff where I get that area warm and it clears up. And it's like nothing crazy or anything like that. So I think today the goal is 40 pull-ups. And the goal was to run a 3-mile race during lunch, but my brother ended up calling me and I ran like another mile when I was talking to him. It ended up being like 2.5 miles. So I went for 2.5 mile run today. I'll get the 40 pull-ups, 100 push-ups in, and then some other physical activity. So yeah, it's been pretty good. The intention was to do more full body like training, so incorporate like some leg work with some upper work. But as always, it seems to happen to me since I've been doing auto-regulation, legs gets kind of pushed to the back burner. So I was like, I'm just gonna destroy legs at one point last week, and I did like 30 pounds per arm for Bulgarian split squats, and that cooked me pretty good. Like my booty was screaming for a couple of days. But yeah, I'd say everything is going pretty smooth right now. I'm pretty happy about that. My pull-ups are like super smooth now. The thing that kind of shocks me the most, I have so much power for my first few reps of chin-ups that I feel like I could do a muscle chin-up.
That's
and like
good.
I'm not training that at all, but like my first few reps, I'm pulling to like almost my navel.
That's
It's insane.
awesome.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
just like the whip speed from like the bottom of like the pull up to like the top of the contraction is insane. So yeah, it's going pretty good, I'd say. I think everything's kind of firing pretty nice. I would say even though I've like kind of put like loose guardrails on the diet, like I'm kind of ready to like just be done with it. Like I might dip in and out of like a deficit for like the next couple of like months, but I'll mostly be on maintenance. And I've really liked how this past year-ish of working out has gone. So I've definitely been on a steady track of leaning out since around this time last year. I've taken a whole lot more time off than I have in a while, but I always come back like renewed and whatnot. Usually I'm just like allowing like social or like personal activities to like overcome or like take more precedent in my life than like physical activity or whatnot. Not to say that like I'm always physical, like except for maybe the 1 week I was sick. Almost every single day I'll get out for like a walk, a run, a bike ride, some sort of lift, that kind of thing. So even on rest days I like to move. But yeah, I think things are going really well. I like the way things are shaping up aesthetically. So I'll have to send some sort of like before, which I didn't take like great before photos. I always do that, but I took photos. I want to say around New Year's, like just like a front double bicep and like a rear double bicep, I think. Or maybe it was Halloween of last year. Either way, I was decently lean there, and I think I'm even more lean now. But I think I'm fuller. So I guess kind of wrapping up this ramble. Sorry, Gainz Nation. I would say that I do think that there is something behind like main gaining or gain tenants phase.
Gaintaining.
Yeah. So I really like it a lot, to be honest with you. Not to say that like I like massing and like cutting is whatever. It's just you kind of have to do it if your pursuit is bodybuilding. Doing some sort of like gaintaining phase is pretty awesome because you can eat like a good amount of food. You don't really have to be too like conscientious about like cutting out this or cutting out that or whatnot. And you can like lift pretty crazy. And I think because I was mindful about adding in like cheat days, they weren't like all that like cheaty, but I might have like pancakes for breakfast, for example, like on the weekends. I think I was able to keep energy levels like decently high. Sleep was like pretty good throughout this like mini cut. So I think this segues perfectly into what we're going to talk about today. Form. We're going to focus on form. Is it overrated or underrated? And like the biggest thing that I want to kind of put out there to you, Antoine, to see what you think, buddy, is I haven't made a lot of progression in a lot of things, to be honest with you. Like pull-ups, yes. Pull-ups actually I've made some insane progressions. Like I can probably do like run 5, maybe even 6 sets in a row of like 8 reps, 8 reps, 8 reps, 8 reps, 8 reps, 8 reps, 8 reps. So obviously like that first set I'm probably like, gosh, it's like an RPE 5, RPE 4, and they get closer and closer to RPE 10 during that like 5th or 6th rep. But the point being is that like I can just rip out set after set after set after set, which like from a CrossFit perspective is like super important. So if like you're into CrossFit, this like some of the things that we talked about like in last week's episode, maybe some of the things that we talked about this week's episode, some of the things we talked about in the diet episodes, those are all pertinent. But I would say the number one thing that I have improved over the last year is being more mindful about my form. So I think my form has improved, but I don't think I've gotten stronger in a lot of different things. Like some things for sure, but I think the body composition is far better now than it was the same time last year. And I think a lot of it comes down to form. So in that case, I would say that form progressions are like totally underrated. What do you think about that?
Yeah. So I like it. I think it is. I think it most of the time is underrated. The only time like I think it's like I guess overrated is when like we're talking like a person who never plans to compete in powerlifting, would rather squat like, just above 90 degrees instead of 90 degrees or even lower than that, right? So a person who just wants to do like rack pulls instead of full on deadlifts and never wants to do competition in deadlifts. But yeah, most of the time, I'd say it is underrated with form progressions. A good example would be like my newer squat form too, Roman. Like, I was working on that and I wasn't able to get like as deep as first, and I'm just trying to figure it out. But as the time gets better, I am getting deeper, and I couldn't tell like what you were saying, like the every week, like I just feel it more in my quads and my glutes more than I ever felt like a squat before in my life, right? So I think what you're saying with like squat, like the form progressions is like, say like for some reason you couldn't get like, like you were saying, those reps with the pull-ups, and for some reason like you just week by week you just work on like, okay, when it's getting to like RPE 8, I'm still cracking the whip when it comes to form, and like now like the pump's better, I feel it more, the muscles are contracting more, and then now if you look at it in the bigger scope, like, hey, I look more fuller, I look, I didn't gain or lose weight, but for some reason with the way I'm utilizing my form, then now it's like progressing, in a sense of how I look at myself, how people look at me. And I think it goes and also too, and like I said, Roman, please agree or disagree with me on the overrated side, is because like other parts of like hypertrophy, I think, you could get away with maybe like, you know, like say if like, with like tricep extensions, instead of going all the way up and all the way down, like when you're pulling like on a cable extension, for some reason, what if you start like halfway and you get like a better squeeze in your tricep, you get a good flex. But in my mind, it goes back to like the studies where like you were saying, like, fuller range of motion and bringing the muscle through that bigger range of muscle. In my opinion, that's still, it's like a battle in my mind, because in my opinion, when you look at that research, it's like, well, if you could, if you could get yourself to that full range of motion and you do it properly and safely, I just think it's so much better for like a muscle belly. Like I would never do like I remember when Arnold used to say like, if you want to, build a bigger peak on your bicep, then you should do like just upper portions of the bicep curl. I'm not even joking. He said that like if you want like a higher peak on your bicep, and when you think of like form like that, like Roman, what would you say to something like that? Would you agree or disagree on that?
No, that's totally BS. That was another Arnoldism where it's like that did not pan out. Yeah, you don't functionally change the shape of your muscle belly. That's how his muscle belly looks. So you don't like make your bicep more peaky because you just end up doing this. Um, no, I love what you said, and like so much of that tracks. The one thing I'll add to that is one thing that I've seen recently, and I think I was just naturally adding it into my own workout routines, is effectively slowing down the eccentric phase. I think
Yeah.
One like fitness group, if I may, that's been like really spot on with encouraging slowing down the eccentric phase during squats, during bench, during um, gosh, maybe even deadlifts or rack pulls or something along those lines, during hack squats, during calf raises, you name it, is Renaissance periodization. So it's like Dr. Mike, Jared, Charlie, all them. If if you
Did Charlie, real quickly, not to interrupt, did Charlie leave RP by any chance?
I don't know, to be honest
Because
with you.
he made his own app.
Yeah, I did see that.
I was just curious. I
Yeah.
I, I saw it and he was promoting it, but yeah, I don't know.
You know who I also a big name in like the bodybuilding community that I saw splash with connection to RP is Nick Walker. I think Jared is coaching Nick Walker now.
Wow.
I could be mistaken, but they've filmed a couple of videos today. Sorry, not today. My apologies, Gainz Nation. Recently, and I believe Nick had said that Jared is his new coach. I could be mistaken, but they have a couple of training videos out together on Nick Walker's YouTube page.
Yeah, but yeah, to your point about the eccentric phase, because I think that's important. But I want you to finish that before we get to, we get distracted.
Yeah, so there's and I definitely want to talk about, because for some folk like form is totally overrated, like 100%. There's like a group of individuals where it's like maybe they need to listen more to like the shut up and lift community. Not to be crude, but just to be like realistic. But yeah, I definitely think that Renaissance Periodization RP has done a phenomenal job of encouraging more lifters to slow down the eccentric. I think that makes it much more digestible to
Yeah.
increase the range of motion. And I think that slowing down the eccentric and like even in some instances over exaggerating, getting like a 3 second or a 5 second eccentric phase, over accentuating that stretch, I think can in many instances overpower the effects of a faster lift with full range of motion. I think we'll start to see that. I think we'll start to see that the
Now,
emphasis.
do you think to piggyback on what you just said, just to maybe give the listeners more information, because I have a question about that statement.
Yeah.
Now, is that geared more towards hypertrophy spot of training or like strength side? So would you agree for both of those, one of those, maybe a little bit of both? What would you say with that statement?
100% hypertrophy. Strength,
Okay.
completely different conversation.
Yeah.
Like you really do need to work on that like full range of motion, because if you don't, for example, like look at a great commonsensical argument is made by Johnny Candido when it comes to we'll take the squat for example. He actually thinks that you should approximate your average squat should be about just below 90 degrees. So whatever, like the IPF I think it's the IPF standard, where it's the hip crease has to be just below the the top
knee
of the knee.
joint.
So yeah, the knee joint. So if this is the knee here and this is your hip crease, I'm trying to over exaggerate a little bit, but I'm not saying like ass to grass. So he'll say like some of your squats should probably be slightly above. Some of them should be like right at parallel, and some of them should be like just below. And if you're averaging your average technique, and you know some might be close to ass to grass, if you're averaging closer to the approximate form which will be accepted, then that is probably the ideal scenario, because you're testing those muscles at different lengths at varying weights throughout your mesocycle, for example. So he lays it out much more eloquently than I do. So that argument that I was making was almost purely for the hypertrophy community or the bodybuilding community, not so much the strength community. That's a good point of clarity.
Yeah, because back to the idea of the form. So I've probably mentioned it before, but this is a good thing to mention it again, since my father-in-law is like training with me, and we do strength and hypertrophy work because I do power building all the time, because I can never obviously like one thing. I have to like more than one thing because this is America in 2023. But anyways, and it's hard for newbies to understand that, Roman. So that's why I had to ask, and because I see it so much personally, I have to keep, digging into his head to differentiate, make that difference between both. Because when I'm having him do overhead press, afterwards we might do, maybe a bicep curl, maybe a leg extension. So when he does that overhead press, I'm purposely showing him the difference. Like, hey, this overhead press, I want your form to be 100%, but I want you to get a certain amount of weight in a certain amount of reps. And then if you are, we're going to move up to the heavier weight. And then if we go to that bicep curl or that leg extension, I'm like, hey, don't worry about the weight too much. I want you to get that nice pump. We're trying to, maybe for him, we're trying to get 8 or more reps. But like if he's doing, like just the other day, he did tricep extensions with the cable pull down, and we didn't have any attachment. We were just doing extensions from the cable. He did 20 pounds on the one arm, and he got up to like 15 reps, right? And he stopped. And see, the thing is, because that's a good thing about like learning like how people lift and how you lift. And I realized, I was like, damn, that 15 looked really easy. I said, keep going. And that's why I posted that leg extension video of me like going until like maybe like RPE 8 to 10. And you could kind of tell on how my body language looked. And he got to 24 reps. And I said, and jokingly, I said, are you trying hard enough? Like, because he stopped at that 15, and because and that's why I wanted to point it out, because I want him to understand like the strength side of things and the hypertrophy side of things. So it's like we got to clarify that, and that's why I had to ask that question, because it goes back to that. Like his form was on point for both, but I want him to get that feel. I want him to feel like, okay, I'm trying to push this sucker up as fast and hard and safely and as well as possible, right? And then this one, I'm pushing that sucker down so I can expand the muscle. I can get that pump. I can get that feel, and I'm getting that effort in. That's where I was getting at.
Too. Yeah, I love about that so much is it's like I think what is said like time and time and time again is it's like not enough effort, right? Yeah. But it's like, if you've never pushed yourself, like how do you know what like, I don't know why this like just occurred to me, but it's like your stepdad might not have known how strong he is. Like he might have thought like that's like, this is where I need to stop, but because you're like, give me a few more, like give me a few more, like he could have shocked himself with how strong he is. And like my point being is like many people don't know like their capabilities until they're pushed a little bit. Because like if you've never gone to that point of like reaching like mechanical failure before, then like you don't know what that feels like.
Yeah.
So once you start to get that muscle burn, it might be like, oh my God, what is happening? Like, am I dying? Like,
Yeah.
am I going to live through this? Whereas it's like, you're fine. Like that's supposed to happen. Keep going, keep going, keep going, keep going. Okay, now you can stop because you like see that there's like an appreciable slowdown in their like concentric or whatever metrics you use for that. No, but I love that, buddy. That's a great example.
Yeah, and I'm very philosophical when it comes to like lifting. And it'll break down in like the sauna session. So we'll like stretch out and then go in the sauna. And like he understands this too. I mean, he's only been going since January. So I mean, he's lifted on and off like through his like lifetime, but like never really had a coach or a trainer. But like for that example of the 24 reps with 20 pounds, like, yeah, it's probably a lot of effort. He tried probably really hard and he probably got a good pump. And then I was explaining to him because like, obviously, I look at recovery very importantly, and like, I'm never the one that's always like broken down every day. And that's not how you grow anyways. So like I told him, I'm like, hey, just because you did the 24 reps instead of the 15, like, yeah, it might kind of stink or it might suck right then and there. But most of the time, like after the gym, you probably don't feel it as much. Yeah, you might have a little bit soreness the next 2 days, but like think about it that way, like Roma was saying, like with the effort, like most of the time, yeah, it might suck a little bit or it might hurt or be, it might give you you might get a pump. You might not like that. I mean, we obviously enjoy it, but like, after the when it's done, like in reality, you're probably not going to feel it as much than, like within another couple hours. I mean, I put him through that, and like he's not here like the next day complaining, oh, I can't bend my arm because my triceps so sore. He might be sore, but like, it's to the point where it's like those muscles and like that, that ability to grow is like so much stronger than you think.
Yeah, and it's like one thing that's not talked about is like the resiliency too. I'll give like a quick narrative
Yeah.
to kind of like support this. But I was talking to my older brother today, and we were talking about David Goggins, and I believe somewhat recently he got, I think, knee surgery. And there's so much lore around David Goggins, but it's like you get the point. So obviously David Goggins, former Marine, just an absolute like psycho when it comes to running ultra marathons. I believe he had knee surgery, and the story goes something to the effect of his surgeon is having to cut into his meniscus. And for most people, he's just able to like slice through it like butter. For David Goggins' meniscus, he's over there like hacking away at the thing to be able to get through it because he's developed so much like thickness, so much like effectively. I'm just gonna use the word strength to like the resiliency of that like part of his knee joint. So whether that's true or not, the point being is we know for a fact that when you lift, when you work out, you're developing resiliency in those joints, in those muscle bellies. And I think some of the resiliency also occurs like mentally. So we know that we're more capable than we were before, right? Because like I said, like your stepdad might have only thought like, hey, I can only do 15 reps, or this is what I've done in the past. So he and that might have been hard for him too. So he might have set that like mental barrier. But having somebody that's there, that's looking at like his form, the way like the different phases of the lift are going, and you're helping to encourage him to unlock his potential in that way. And then that'll carry over in so many different parts of his life. Like he won't even realize it, but he's now going to be hammering, like working on the house or something like that. And like he'll like finish up, eat lunch or whatnot, and you'll be chatting. And I guarantee you he'll say something to the effect of like, man, my like elbow used to hurt me like after I was like hammering for a couple hours, or my shoulder used to hurt me after that.
No, it doesn't.
Like, it's a little sore, but like it feels okay. Yeah, exactly. So that's what I like absolutely love about fitness culture and being able to introduce more and more people into fitness culture and being like physically active. And like, every person isn't going to want to go to the gym like we do, or work out like 6 days a week or something like that. But even if you start like 2 times a week, I would say kind of bring it back to the topic at hand. Like, don't go like, don't focus like hyper focus on your form. Form is really important. And I think if you just progress in form alone, then you can make a lot of progress. But I would say form can be overrated for those individuals that like hyper focus on like, oh, I had a little bit of anterior pelvic tilt on my squat or something along those lines. At the end of the day, like if you have a certain like goal with like a physical activity, then the job is to just get it done. You want it to be good, clean form. You can critique yourself, but if it looks like 90 to 95% of the criteria you look at, then like, man, pat yourself on the back. You did a great job for putting in like a hard day's worth of effort. Does that make sense?
Yes, sir. Well, and I think that's a great thing to end it on, buddy. I appreciate the time. Thank you guys for listening and watching. And then we want you to like, comment, subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.